Macmillan Audio presents The California Trail by Ralph Compton. Read for you by Scott Sowers. Gunfire in the night. The long, hard drive to Papago Wells began to take its toll. A dozen times Gil was jolted awake, aware that he had dozed in the saddle. The harder he strove to remain awake, to be alert, the more surely his weary body betrayed him. But nothing brought a frontiersman to full awareness as quickly as gunfire, and such was the case with Gil Austin and his companions. The night riders came in from the north, shouting and shooting. Gil and the rest of the Nighthawks kicked their mounts to a gallop, and by the time they reached the spring, the rest of the outfit was in the saddle. Amid the shouting, there was a scream of terror. A buoy in the hand of one of the Indian riders had found a victim. The outlaws had stampeded at least some of the horses, but when Gil and his riders began throwing lead at the oncoming rustlers, a strange thing happened. The horse herd, with mounted, gun-wielding riders behind and in front of them, split. The horses ran east and west, and the surprised outlaws came face to face with the entire Texas outfit. Prologue. September 1st, 1849. Gold had been discovered in California. Gil Austin rode out of San Antonio, bound for Bandera Range in the vast box AA ranch he shared with his brother Van. Tucked into his saddlebag was a copy of the newspaper in which he had just read of the gold strike, and his heart leaped with excitement. Gil had not been smitten with gold fever, a man's usual reaction to such news, but with the possibilities surrounding the discovery. It was the last 2 or 3 paragraphs of the newspaper account that had interested him. Miners were flocking to California by the thousands, and there was a critical shortage of beef. In Texas, the problem facing them was exactly the reverse. There was a blessed plenty of beef, but a critical shortage of gold. A man didn't sell a cow, he was forced to swap it for something he could use. According to the newspaper, a small herd of cattle driven from Oregon to the gold fields had sold for $200 a head. Other herds, even those less than prime, not a cow had gone for less than $75. For 1,000 head, that was $75,000. 4,000 head would bring more than $250,000. Anxious to share the news with his brother Van, Gil kicked his horse into a slow gallop. As he rode, he allowed his mind to drift back over the years, recalling when he, Van, and their amigo, Clay Duval, had left Missouri to become part of the American colony. Clay had been 21, Gil 19, and Van a year younger. The American colony, after a disastrous beginning, was saved in 1825 when Stephen Austin, uncle to Gil and Van, had gone to Mexico City and received permission from the Mexican government to colonize millions of acres along the Brazos and Colorado rivers. Stephen had received 67,000 acres of land and had managed to secure grants for his nephews next to his own. Gil and Van had taken their grants in 1833, and when Stephen had died in 1836, they had taken his grants too. In all, they had more than 75,000 acres. But the irony of it was, they had been lacking the cattle and horses necessary for the ranch they wanted. In Mexico, there had been an abundance of longhorn cows, valued only for hides and tallow. To the south of the state of Durango, Antonio Mendoza had raised fine, blooded horses. Despite a conflict with Mexico that would lead to war, Clay Duval had been determined to ride south on a twofold mission. He planned to deal with Mendoza for breeding stock and with Mexican ranchers for longhorn.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?